Congressman, welcome. Thanks for being. We appreciate you stopping by.
Great to be with you.
You served as governor, Florida governor, from 2007 to 2011. You were elected congressman in 2016 from the 13th district, representing St. Petersburg. You were once a Republican, then turned independent. Now you are a Democrat. Why do you want to be governor again, and why now?
Because I love Florida, and because I'm heartbroken about the leadership we have right now. I think Governor DeSantis is a disaster. He's hurting LGBTQ kids, making it difficult for women to have their right to choose on their own health care decisions, making it harder for African Americans to vote, for seniors to vote, making it harder to get mail-in ballots or have drop boxes in minority communities throughout the state of Florida. All these things are wrong, and I know Florida deserves better.
Yet the polls show at the moment the sitting Republican governor, DeSantis, extremely popular. Republican voters outnumber Democratic voters in this state for the first time in modern history. What do you say to the electorate who say Democrats have it wrong right now?
Well, generally, I, with all due respect, I don't agree that he's extremely popular. I really don't. And he is among some Republican voters.
The polls suggest otherwise.
It's not extreme. It's when he's against me, he doesn't get 50%. So I wouldn't say that's extremely popular. So what I think is happening is that he is focused on 2024. I think he's running for president of the United States. And I think what he's doing is picking these cultural issues to appeal to the hard right, not even mainstream Republican, hard right Republicans that would vote in a primary, not even the general election. Because I think he really is, Shannon, focused on the presidential election in 24 and the Republican primary voters.
So you have been critical of the priorities lawmakers set in this last legislative session. Many Democrats have been critical. Florida Democrats, though, in fairness, today want to know what your priorities would be if you occupy that mansion again.
Well, to support public education. We're the third largest state in the country, and we're 49th in what we pay our teachers. To make sure we truly protect our environment, make sure that we protect the Everglades. When I was governor previously, we tried to make a purchase of a lot of the sugar land in order to restore the natural flow of water to the Everglades. I'd like to do that again after the election. I mean, just the things that Floridians truly do care about, especially here in the Palm Beach County area.
So let's talk about your primary race. You lead your Democratic opponent, Nikki Fried, in that race at the moment. The most recent Mason-Dixon poll shows you leading her 44% to 27%, a sizable lead. And your critics, though, in your party, in your own party, do suggest that you acquired that lead in the poll by running and running and running. You've run 6 times in 4 different offices, for 4 different offices with 3 different party affiliations since 1998. That it's your name recognition, not necessarily your policies, that's getting you that bump in the polls. How do you respond?
I think it's both. Name recognition matters in this business, just like it does in the media business, brand identification, if people trust you. If they can have confidence in you. I mean, I'm from Tampa Bay. We have a quarterback that's played longer than anybody in NFL history, and he's won 7 Super Bowls. Tom Brady, who's who I'm talking about. Having experience is not a bad thing, especially at a time in our nation's history and in Florida's history when things are so divisive. I really believe in my heart and my soul that we need to have decency and kindness come back to government, and make sure that we don't make fun of children when they're standing behind the governor at a press conference, or make it harder for African Americans to vote, as I spoke about before, or a woman's right to choose. These things aren't Florida. Florida's a good, decent place with good, decent people, and they deserve better than the current governor we have.
So Florida Democrats, quite frankly, do want to know where you stand on those issues. Let's unpack those in just a moment. But one of the criticisms coming from your chief opponent, Nikki Fried's camp, specifically is that you've been cozy with Donald Trump in the past, in your political past. Certainly that's popular in Republican circles, but not in your base at all. So in an interview with Michael Williams on this show, To the Point, just last week, Fried said this. She said, Florida Democrats want a true Democrat, end quote. And then her campaign chair went on to say, one day Charlie Crist can be campaigning with Trump, the next he's losing to Marco Rubio and then to Rick Scott. He doesn't stand for anything, asking about your brand. And Florida voters, he went on to say, won't stand or lose with him again, end quote. Your response?
I'm going to win. I'm going to win because I am just the same person I've always been. I've always believed in supporting our public education system. I've always believed in defending our environment because I know as a Floridian that our environment and our economy are inextricably linked. If we don't protect our environment, people stop coming here. That hurts tourism. That hurts people that work at restaurants, working class people that work at hotels. You know, these are the things I've always felt strongly about. I believe in forgiveness. That's why I restored the rights of 155,000 former felons to get their right to vote back. It's why I expanded the hours of early voting in the election for president previously, because there were long lines in Florida in our early voting. I signed an executive order and all 67 counties made it so that people had more time to vote. I did that as a Republican governor. The Democrat ended up winning the election. My former Republican friends weren't happy with it and said, "Charlie, why would you do that?" And I told them because when I got sworn in as governor, I didn't get sworn in as the governor of the Republicans of Florida. I got sworn in as the governor of the people of Florida. If I win November the 8th, when I win November the 8th, I'll do the same again.
So let's talk about your time. Let's unpack that, your time as a Republican. There's a campaign ad we'd like to run right now. It was when you were a Republican, your platform in your own words. Let's listen to this.
Hi, this is Charlie Crist calling to set the record straight. I'm pro-life. I oppose amnesty for illegal immigrants. I support traditional marriage. And I have never supported a new tax or big spending program. I support a constitutional amendment to protect traditional marriage, and I oppose adoption by gay couples. And I work to ensure the right to display the 10 Commandments in public places. Floridians need a consistent conservative governor that they can trust. I would appreciate your vote on Election Day. Thank you so much, and God bless you, and God bless Florida.
And when you announced your candidacy, you were running for governor. Once again, you told MSNBC, quote, women should have the right to exercise their choice when it comes to their body and their health care. So to get the party vote, Congressman, Democrats need to know where you stand on these hot button issues. Let's start with them. Let's go down the list. Abortion. Where are you today?
I believe in a woman's right to choose. I always have. And when I said pro-life, I'm still pro-life, meaning I'm for life. I hope most people are. And I think it's important to understand the distinction.
But respectfully, in the political arena, that doesn't sit well with Republicans or Democrats. That's how you claim on which side you're on, pro-life, pro-choice. That's pretty well known. So when you run an ad like that, that's the suggestion.
Shannon, that's somebody else's definition. I'm giving you mine.
Okay.
You're here to interview me. I hope you want to hear from me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
So when I say I'm pro-life, I mean I'm for life.
Okay.
And I'm for a woman's right to choose and make her own decisions about her body. I mean, I was raised with 3 sisters. I'm an only son. I believe this in my heart and soul. And I hope most people are for life. And I know that I am also pro-choice for women. They should have that right. I've respected them since I was a little kid.
So you're for a woman's right to choose now. That's where you stand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not only where I stand, I vetoed a bill as governor, as a Republican, that would have restricted their right to choose. My record speaks for itself.
Let's move on. LGBTQ in general. Where do you stand? Supporting the movement?
I do support the movement, absolutely. And I've evolved on that, just the way President Obama did, at about the same time, as a matter of fact. He was for civil unions. I was at the same time. And then the president came out, Obama, and said, you know, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about this issue, and I have come to the view that it's not for me to tell other people who to love. I feel the same way. And I came to that conclusion about the same time as President Obama.
And so you said in that ad that you oppose adoption by gay couples. Do you today oppose adoption by gay couples?
I don't. In fact, I stopped the lawsuit that was trying to pursue that when I was a Republican governor.
What about parental rights in education bill, dubbed by opponents of the bill as Don't Say Gay in this last legislative session? Certainly the focus of the legislative session for many, many weeks. The LGBTQ community said this set them back decades in terms of progress, alienates them, puts them on an island, sets them back dramatically. Proponents of the legislation said this was pretty simple. It was parents speaking up, saying that they wanted to have the right to have sensitive conversations first about sexuality and transgender issues. Where do you stand on it? What would you have done to navigate the two sides if you had been governor at the time?
I would have vetoed the law, number one. I think it's wrong to say that you can't talk about what somebody feels in their heart and what these young people feel in their soul. I mean, who is it for the government to intrude on their right to free speech? I think that's wrong. It's in our U.S. Constitution. It's in our Florida Constitution. People have a right to speak.
So if both chambers came out in support of it, it hit your desk, you would veto it.
Yes.
I want to take you back to a piece of legislation. You were governor, a very little known piece of legislation at the time, had to do with nail salon safety and sanitation.
What?
Nail salon safety and
Nail salons.
Nail salons had to do with nail salons. I know you're smirking, but it was.
I'm not smirking. I'm smiling.
It's a piece of legislation that stumped a lot of people because it had support from both sides of the aisle, unanimous support in both chambers. It had support from the regulatory agency, WPTV, as well as the industry itself. It hit your desk, you vetoed it, and there wasn't a lot of explanation from your office why. So I'm curious. You say
what would it do?
It would have cleaned up nail salons, required nail techs to have further education, more education before they started into the industry. So curious about whether that speaks to how you would govern. If you're prepared to veto legislation that had majority in both chambers, and you would veto legislation that had unanimous consent from both sides.
Yeah, if I think it's wrong, of course I will. That's why we elect a governor. That's why we have 3 branches of government. They're co-equal branches, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. And in that case, and thank you for reflecting and refreshing my memory on what it would have done, if it would have made it harder for people who come to our country or people who are already here and they want to work in a nail salon, why do you want to make it more restrictive and more difficult for them to be able to have a livelihood?
It would have required them to have more training so that the consumer would remain more safe. That's what proponents at the time suggested.
Well, that's what proponents say, but I was the opponent. And my point of view was it was going to make it harder for those people to get a job. People need to have a job and be able to get work.
Moving on, our political analyst, Brian Crowley, you had some time speaking with him today as you stepped into our studio. He had this question for you. Your running mate in 2014, Annette Taddeo, is now running against you in this 3-way Democratic primary that also includes Nikki Fried. Why is she opposing you now?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her. But I encourage her, as I did Nikki. Anybody has a right to run who wants to, and they should.
Homeowners insurance, hot button topic. He also asked, you've said you'd like to get something done on that. What do you propose, and how soon would you suggest you could get something done in the state?
We need to regulate the insurance industry. It's out of control. The government in Tallahassee has become a lapdog for homeowners insurance companies. It's clear. And I talk to friends each and every day that can't believe how these rates have been allowed to go up. What would I do? Well, I dealt with it before. This was a big issue when I got elected governor the first time. And shortly after I got sworn in as governor, I called a special session to get the rates down. And we got them down 10% for the people of Florida. That's what I will do when I win November the 8th.
How quickly do you think you can get that done?
As soon as I get elected.
Right away.
Right away.
What about...
Well, I got to get sworn in January 1st, yeah.
Here at Channel 5, we've done a deep dive on the issue of affordable housing. This is a crisis by every stretch. What would you do to increase the availability of affordable housing, and certainly keeping in mind the supply chain issue, we can't create supplies?
Well, the problem is that we have a trust fund in Tallahassee called the Sadowski Trust Fund that is dedicated exclusively to helping Floridians get affordable home ownership or rent even. They have taken all that money out, the legislature, the governor. That's wrong. I mean, they're raiding this fund. It's hundreds of millions of dollars and not having it there for our fellow Floridians at a time of need. It is a crisis, I agree with you. But they turn their back on them because they don't have their back. Governor DeSantis does not have their back. Whether it's property insurance, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's your utility bills, they have forgotten consumers. And they're appealing to his hard, right, red meat Republican base for his presidential aspirations. It's wrong. Florida deserves better.
Presuming you do win the party's nomination in this hypothetical matchup between you and Ron DeSantis, compare and contrast how Governor Crist would have managed, let's start with the last 4 years. How would you have managed the state?
I would have protected people. I would have protected consumers. I would have increased the salaries of our teachers. We're the 3rd largest state in the country, and we're 49th in what we pay our teachers. What he's done on the environment is nothing. I mean, when he first got elected, he changed a few water board members, and that was it. And now we have algae blooms and red tide all over the state. Last year...
Respectfully, he has been leaning in, just as of late, with significant legislation in that area.
Like what?
And proposals. The Everglades Restoration Act, backing it and getting support for it.
He got the money from me, from members of Congress. We passed that.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's distributing the funds that he campaigned against.
And he would suggest that the funds were then held up. After you voted for them, then they were held up and didn't filter down to Florida. How do you stand on that?
They were held up in Tallahassee. You know, I mean, you know, I'd do everything differently probably than Governor DeSantis, including being nice to you and showing up for reporters and editorial boards like I did this morning at the Palm Beach Post. He won't go there. The people have a right to know, Shannon. It's very important what journalists do. I respect it. He doesn't. He just goes on Fox News. That's it. It's unconscionable.
For those who would see this matchup and they say that, you know, you're someone who has shifted parties.
No, I changed parties.
Changed parties.
My party left me. I didn't change.
Okay, so you changed parties.
It became the Tea Party, and now it metastasized, and now it's Trumpism.
And changed.
I didn't change.
In this interview, you said you changed your mind on hot button, big policy issues.
I talked about one.
Okay.
And that was the LGBTQ and the right to marry.
Okay.
Just the same way Barack Obama did. That happens in life if you gain wisdom through it.
So on that issue, when they look at the two candidates, voters of the state of Florida, you don't have to wonder where, to your point, where Governor DeSantis stands. It's very clear.
He's against gay marriage.
Where do you stand?
I'm for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you say, though, when they look at you and say you've changed your mind on several issues, you've changed parties, you've changed your mind? Governor DeSantis, we know where he stands.
Thinking people have the ability to adapt to the times and understand what's happening in society based on history. Sometimes it's recent history. Our country has progressed in many ways. It has on LGBTQ, as have I, as did President Obama, as did President Biden. I think that's important. Somebody who has the kind of, I think, confidence that, you know, says, you know, I may have made a mistake before, but I am confident enough to admit it and change and do what you feel is right in your heart and share it. That's not easy to do, but it's important to have the courage to do it.
So
I do. When
people call you a flip-flopper, you don't think that's fair?
No, I don't know. They can call me whatever they want, and they do. That's okay. I don't have any qualm with that. But what I think is important is that you understand what you believe is right, what you think in your soul is important, and if you felt that you made a mistake in the past, you do what you believe is right at the present, and I'm willing to do that, and I have the courage to do it.
Let's talk about the election cycle in general. Ron DeSantis, well-funded, $100 million in his war chest right now. We had, I think, some wordsmithing over a popular governor, whether he's popular at night. At the moment, right now, polls indicate we have a popular governor in our state. What is it to you? What does it say to you when the DNC is not seemingly spending a lot of money on your campaign or any of the other Democratic candidates in the state of the
I'm in a primary. The DNC is not going to get involved in a Democratic primary. They'll get involved when we have a nominee, and I have their assurance about that.
But respectfully, we're mid-April now. The election season should be well underway. Where are the stump speeches? Where is the campaigning? We're not really seeing those ads rolling out. It seems
there aren't any ads on either side right now. You're right. But our primary is not till the end of August, Shannon, in Florida. After that happens and we have the nominee, that's when you'll see that occur.
Democrats are having trouble registering voters in the state of Florida. Why?
I don't think that we're having trouble. I was just talking to Brian about the fact that our new chairman, Manny Diaz, has dedicated $2.5 million to a registration program. I think you're going to see it pick up. I'm optimistic about it.
How soon?
Yesterday. They're doing it. They started it a month ago.
And so your vision, politics in general, having served time on both sides of the aisle, spent time on both sides, presumably you still have friends on both sides of the aisle, Congressman. The state in general, the state of affairs in politics, your thoughts on that as we close out?
It needs to be better. I am heartbroken about politics today, not only in Florida, but in America. It is so divisive and so argumentative. And I think we need a kinder approach to it. That we need to understand that people deserve mutual respect and decency and kindness and compassion. That's what I'm trying to put across in this campaign. And I think that's a real distinction in this race.
Congressman, we do appreciate your time, and we do thank you for stopping by.
Great to be with you, Shannon. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.